Well, welcome back to another episode of Back to Paranormal. I am Brian Mitchell, and my beautiful co-host next to me is...
Marjorie.
Marjorie.
Thank you.
Hi, Marjorie. How you doing?
Hello, handsome.
Your eyes are very sparkly tonight.
That's because they're looking at you.
Oh, I love when you say that.
It's true.
Anyway, this is a show we talk about ghosts and spirits and divine intervention and a bunch of different things. We've done a show on UFOs. We've done a show on Bigfoot. And, anything that kind of springs up that we're interested in, we'll talk about. But I think this show has kind of leaned heavily toward more spiritual stuff.
I think I do. I think that too.
And, the reason why we kind of do a show like this or do episodes like this is because, I think people need hope in the world, especially after they lose their loved ones and or a loved one, and they're looking to see if they go on. And I've personally had experiences. I know you have experiences like that too. And I think it gives people, a nice sense of hope, right?
I do. I think that, I feel like the world has become so much more full of so much hate and derision and division. And it is nice to bring some hope.
Yeah.
And also just, you don't have to have an answer to every single question. Sometimes just relinquishing that control can be so liberating, and it can bring you such a sense of ease. Mm-hmm. You don't have to have it all figured out. And we're not here trying to figure stuff out, but we're here just thinking about it. And why not?
And we're also presenting stuff that's happened to us and other people. And I definitely believe that there is a hereafter. I believe I was contacted by my father, and there's no question in my mind that happened. And I think you've kind of had something like that too in your life. But today we're going to do a show about
angels.
Now this was Marjorie's idea to do a show about, and really we're talking about what, guardian angels or just angels in general?
Angels in general.
Yeah.
I mean, they span cultures. I know that the New and Old Testament deal with angels. They present angels in very different ways. Mm-hmm. The Hebrew tradition is a very different view of the Christian view on angels,
right,
and all of that. But angels are there for all of us, And, the word, actually, the etymology of the word, it goes back. Mm-hmm. It starts Mesopotamian and Greek, angelos, which means messenger. Mm-hmm. Obviously, in that graduating into English, Old English being engele, which also means messenger. In ancient Hebrew, mm-hmm, in Aramaic, is malach, meaning messenger, and that's their word. Which is interesting, and it actually got me it kind of got me thinking, because there is a messenger angel who does go by a name named Malachi in the Old Testament.
Wow!
And that was his name. It was his name was his office, which was a messenger of the Lord. Mm. And then it started me thinking even further, malachite, which is a semi-precious green stone, a very mesmerizing stone.
Right.
And many believe that malachite is the essence of joy. It's the stone of transformation because it helps reveal and heal emotional pain by absorbing the pain onto its own self. And what we've done is we've watched a lot of interviews with people who believe that they have had a divine intervention where God sent down an angel form to assist them in a moment of utterly dire need and had taken the mantle or the burden of their pain onto themselves to ease their troubles, get them to safety, save their life, etc.
Right.
And some of the stories, some of the interviews that we watched were really, really fascinating. And none of the stories that we're going to talk about have not been corroborated either by other witnesses or by photographic evidence. They all have evidence that these things have happened.
Yeah.
So that's why we decided to. I've always been fascinated by it. When I was small, there was a child's book that I would read about a little boy who got sick and passed away, and it was called The Littlest Angel, and it was just one of my favorite books. And I only very vaguely remember it, but it struck me then, and the whole concept of angels interfering in our life strikes me still today. So Brian was kind enough to oblige. And we have our beverage here. What's our beverage?
Yeah, what is our beverage tonight?
Our beverage tonight, since we both had burgers for dinner, is a ginger tea brought to you by Celestial Seasonings.
Well, what do you know?
Well,
it's
what do you-
angel intervention
in liquid
in our
form.
liquid form. There we go. So here we go. We're going to boop,
Boop.
boop. Oops, there you go. And it's hot tea. It's not iced tea.
Well, that's good stuff.
Really.
Ginger tea.
You see, we don't just drink beer on this show, or cocktails. I think last week we did the water for the water show.
So, earlier tonight we were talking about, well, are we going to talk about, we're going to discuss our own personal moments in life where we felt that we had an angel intervention. And I said, I've had so many near scrapes in my life, like really moments where I shouldn't be alive anymore.
Yes.
That I cannot say that God, I truly do believe that the Lord has intervened on my behalf. And if I were to sit here and tell you all the near scrapes, it wouldn't blow your mind.
Right.
But I actually thought a little bit further past my own self.
Yes.
In moments where I might not have actually come out in one piece, and yet I did.
Right.
But beyond that,
Thank God.
thank God.
Thank the angels.
No, the day before my father passed away, I was very small, and he was a busy man, and he did not come to my school that often, and I was a very, very shy little girl. And my mom saw this happen to me, and I had been singing in the choir, and I looked up, and my dad was so tall that you could see him all the way in the back of the auditorium.
Wow.
And the assembly room. And I saw him. Oh my gosh, he came. I was so happy. And but I was still very shy to, show my feelings in front of the girls at school because I went to one of those schools where the girls were not nice. So I kept myself to myself. And I sort of very shyly walked across the floor as people were leaving to my father to thank him for coming, to see me sing. And I stopped in the middle of the floor, and my mom knows that she saw this.
Yeah.
And I looked at him, and this wind, like a gust of wind, just hit me in my chest. So strong that it took my breath away.
Wow.
I mean, we're inside a room. There's no wind. There were no open windows. But it took the breath out of my chest. And I looked at him, and I knew, I'm never going to see you alive again.
Wow.
And I immediately changed, and I knew. And
It's okay. It's okay.
No. And I said, "Thank you so much for coming. I love you with all my heart." And I ran up and I jumped up into his arms.
Yeah.
And now I think that was a message from some other place.
Right.
Because if I hadn't told him, because the next day I went home from school and he was dying, and he died right in front of me.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I had that chance to tell him, but I would have squandered it if I hadn't received that
gift.
notion that from the wind. I don't know how else to describe it to you.
Yeah. Well, I think that was something from an angel. I think it was something from God.
I do thank God for that.
Yeah. I believe that.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. It's genuine. It's, I've known this story, and it amazes me. It really amazes me because you had this sense of knowing,
And he was so young, and I was so young, and the last thing on your mind is my father going to suddenly pass away the very next day? You're just not thinking that, this big, strong guy.
Yeah.
And I'm ever so grateful. I mean, I'm devastated that he didn't get to live out his life to its full fruition. But
Right.
I have to say, I can't imagine the human being I would be if I had squandered that chance to tell him how much I love him.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
So it was a gift. No, don't be sorry. It's who we are. But I do believe, because I felt very distinctly a wind, and my mother said, you were so shy, and you were walking, and you were all closed off, and she said, and then suddenly you stopped, and you looked up at him, and you just took off.
Right.
And jumped up into his arms and said, "I love you, thank you, thank you."
You were 11, right?
I was 11, yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's pretty amazing. I've had a couple of things where I felt like that there was somebody there, and I've told a lot of these stories on the show. I had an impromptu reading when I was going to school. Nothing like what you had. The only thing I would say is I had, and I've told this story on the show before, where I was driving early in the morning. I had not had a lot of sleep, and I was very groggy. And I was only maybe 10, 15 minutes away from the house. And I was just like, I threw on clothes and just got into the car, started driving, and really was starting to fall asleep. And at some point, like I said, 15 minutes away from the house, I started dozing off. And all of a sudden I heard behind me somebody scream, "Wake up."
Yeah.
And I woke up, and it shook me because I was actually going toward the guardrail.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was able to get control of the car, and there was nobody on the road. It was early in the morning. So that, I believe, was a guardian angel. Difficult time in my life when I was, because as you know, I'm an animator. You know that. The audience may not. But but when I was going to school, I was very unsure whether I was going to make it into the business. And so what ended up happening was I was really wondering, and I was a little bit perplexed because things were not happening for me. And all of a sudden, somebody sat down next to me, and never met this person before. It was an older woman, and she read me. She said, "I have this ability, I can read people." And she didn't tell me what was going to happen in my life. She told me where I would be, and she told me where I lived. She described the house that I lived in, and But she basically gave me hope in not a whole lot of words, but she said, you're going to work in commercial art. She didn't say it was cartoons, animated cartoons or anything like that, but she did say that you are going to be working in it. You are going to be living on the West Coast, which is where the industry was at the time. And she said, you're going to be very successful in it. And it was kind of like, as quick as that happened, she said, that's all I got. And she said, and she shook my hand and I thanked her. And then she took off and I never saw her again. This was, and in a way, I believe that was a guardian angel. Because for that to happen, I mean, it was at a time in my life where I was really
so random
and really unsure. It wasn't solicited. It was basically, she came to me.
And she was sending you a message.
She was
of encouragement.
Yeah. So, and I believe that the Lord I believe that God sends people to other people to act as their guardian angel. I think I heard a story a while ago about a gentleman and he was driving in his car. He was actually on his way to church, and he got this strong feeling that he should go to this other place, and he didn't know where he was going. He was just kind of following this thought, and he ended up in a place where and he ended up parking his car, and he walked across the street, and there was a gentleman across the street that was basically, all he wanted was food. All he wanted was food. And so he gave him money so that he could go out and get food. And it was just such a strong feeling to him that this person needs help. And he couldn't explain why. It's just something just came over him. And so I think in some instances, you or me or somebody else can be at this place, maybe not even at this place, but you just get a sense that this is what you should be doing. You get a feeling or a thought, and you follow it, and basically it takes you to a place where you can actually help somebody. There are stories like that.
Well, you and I were leaving a store, and we were walking across the parking lot, and there was a man, and he kind of crept up on us.
Yeah.
And he said, I really just need a hot meal. And I know how strongly you feel about, drugs, and we share that feeling, and that, there's too much of it, and this drug abuse and mental illness that is so prevalent in our society today, and it makes us both very, very sad. And your initial instinct was to say no, and then you stopped like just a couple steps away, and you said, no, I have a very strong feeling about this.
Yeah.
And you went back and you gave him money enough to buy a decent meal.
Yeah.
And no, it was not a pittance. And you said, no, I normally, because I don't want to encourage, bad, behavior,
right?
Abuse. Mm-hmm. I don't, but I just have this really strong feeling that this man needs some help. Yeah. So you went back and you gave him some money, and you gave it to him, and he said, thank you so much. And then we turned back around, and he was gone.
Yeah.
He was just like...
He took off.
Gone.
Yeah.
It was very odd.
It was very odd, yeah. Very odd thing.
Yeah, but you were following the gut feeling.
Yeah, he wasn't... I think the gut was he was not your average... you have professional beggars out there.
There are.
But you have people that genuinely need money. Yeah. And I just felt...
But the fact that he just disappeared into
he disappeared. He disappeared. And I was like, what happened to him? He was just there. And I figured maybe he would, stay there for a little bit longer. It was pitch black out. Yeah. but I was outside of a box club when that happened. Yeah. That was interesting. Yeah, that was very interesting. I just had that. It was just, you just get this strong feeling. I get it, and I forgot about that.
I always trust your instinct. I always trust your instinct.
Yeah.
But we saw some interviews there of people who swear that they have had an angel bring them, salvation, a message, save them from a moment of danger.
Right.
There was a 10-year-old boy named Mark Durance, and he was he was out playing with his dog, and
this was in Florida.
Yeah. And he was bit by a snake, a poisonous snake, in his boot, and the snake bit right through the boot, right through the sock, and into major vein.
Right.
And
because it was a boot,
it couldn't dislodge.
So it kept pumping venom right into the vein.
And the little boy could feel the venom getting pumped and pumped and pumped into his leg, into his body. And he tried to fight the snake off, and he passed out. Yeah. And then next thing,
his dog actually came to the rescue and pulled the snake off of him and killed the snake.
Killed the snake.
Yeah.
But next thing he knows, he's awake and he's at his home.
What happened was, the story was basically he felt something carrying him.
No.
Okay, that's later. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, good. He walked into the house.
He walked into the house.
After, yeah.
And they've shown photos of this little boy's leg that had literally dissolved because of the amount of venom that were you could see through the leg. The tissue was completely desiccated. It was and he walked through the door of his house and said, "I've been bit by a snake." And his parents have some trouble, but they get him to the hospital. Yeah,
there was I guess their car stalled. They were able to wave down somebody else who didn't speak any English but understood the problem.
A farmer.
And according to this, he intersected with an ambulance.
There just happened to be an ambulance.
And then basically they waved down the ambulance, and then the ambulance took the boy to the hospital, and they administered anti-venom. But the problem was that his arteries were already, I guess the organs were shutting down. I mean, liver function, kidney. Yeah, the only thing I was pumping was, basically the heart, of course, and then, but everything else was not. And the doctors basically gave a very grim prognosis. And that's the right word, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so anyway, they basically told the parents to be prepared because he's probably not going to last the night. And what ended up happening was he made a miraculous recovery. It took a couple of days, but he recovered and awoke. And then he proceeded to tell his parents what happened. And what he explained to them was about what happened with the bite and all that, and how the dog was able to rip the snake apart. But he also said that he passed out, and then he felt being carried. And now people have, the show is about angels, but he said that he felt it was God. And he was being told everything's going to be all right. Don't worry, everything's going to be okay. And he felt he was levitated
and carried by this being all the way back home.
All the way back home, because he was not right around the corner. And then he was able to get into the door and say, "I've been bit by a snake. the brother thought he was joking, but then realized when he collapsed on the floor, no, maybe he was really bit by a snake, and that's when.
But once the light figure delivered him, he said he was all glowing, and he turned around and he walked straight back the way he came, and he just disappeared into the field.
Yeah. Now,
all the doctors say he medically should not even be here.
He should not have gotten back to the house.
Should not have gotten back to. If you saw the photographs of this child's leg,
yeah, it's horrendous,
unbelievable.
Yeah, and I don't know how his leg is today. I don't know if he still has,
They didn't address that.
Nobody addressed that, but I think the assumption.
I think when you're that grateful to actually be living, and they did this interview with him when he was 16, so 6 years after the snake bite incident.
Well, I know they were thinking about amputating his leg, and that did not happen. They did not amputate his leg. So, it's still miraculous because they say there's no way that he could have gotten back home. There's no way with, that lethal dosage of, normally when a snake bites, it's just a little bit of venom. And normally like baby rattlesnakes, when they bite, they tend to give you all the venom that they got. Mm-hmm. And that's just because they're untrained at that point, The snake doesn't give all the venom. But in this case, he got the venom right into the vein, which was going right up to the heart. And so, he should have been dead, and that's what they were saying.
And as a grown 16-year-old young man, he said, "I know that there's a very thin line, and I know that the Lord sent someone to save me, and that my life is worth, a great deal." So it's a beautiful story.
It's a beautiful story. So this is a story about my mother. She had a stroke, I want to say maybe about 10 years ago. Maybe 8 to 10 years ago. And so...
You would never know it.
No, you never know it. But she, what happened that week, she was complaining of back pain, like upper back pain, and I thought it was something. And so I took her to the hospital, and she was in extreme pain. And they looked at her, and they couldn't find anything wrong with her heart, or, everything seemed to be checking out okay, And so they gave her basically muscle relaxants, and painkillers, like Tylenol. But anyway, she took them. It kind of helped a little bit, but not really. And they told her to see her doctor. And so she made an appointment to see her doctor on that Saturday. So she went in to see the doctor, and the doctor looked her over, said, everything seems to be fine. The blood pressure seemed to be good, whatever. Well, anyway, she left. She ran an errand, and then she came home. And as soon as she walked in the door, she collapsed. And she had a major stroke, basically took out her whole right side. So she couldn't speak. Basically, she was on the floor for a while. Shoes basically flew off her feet when she collapsed. And so she was lying on the floor, and she was trying to figure out what to do. And the problem was the phone, it's a wall phone, so it's up maybe about 5 feet up on the wall, 4 or 5 feet up on the wall, where she couldn't reach it. She had to actually find a way of getting to the phone. Now, my aunt would call and check on her. She had not talked to her in the morning because she went to see the doctor. So she knew she'd probably be calling. And she couldn't remember phone numbers. She couldn't remember, like, 911. But she had to negotiate her body to actually get up onto a chair. And she spent a ton of time pushing a chair to the telephone against the wall. and then trying to get herself up on the chair using one side of her body. The other side was useless. She could not do anything. So she managed to get up on the chair, and she stayed by the phone because she knew that her sister would be calling. And finally, her sister did call, and she was able to pick up the phone. And my mother mumbled some stuff because she could not make out any words. And my aunt immediately knew something was wrong. And so she said to her, "You need to get to the front door. I'm going to call."
Hang up the phone.
Hang up the phone, but I'm going to call the ambulance, but you need to get to the front door and open the front door. So this happened somewhere between 11 o'clock and about 4 o'clock when she called.
Wow.
And this is the mysterious part. She was by the back door. The way the house is configured is you have to go through from that phone, which is, it's an inner wall in the back of the house. And she would have to find a way of getting over to the other side, which is 2 stairs up, a little platform, and then 2 stairs down to the living room, go across the room to the front of the house, open a vestibule door, and then open up this door in the front, which was, which basically is a heavy door, and it's, and then open up the screen door. And my mother is very meticulous when she goes to the doctor. So 5 minutes later, give or take a minute or two, the paramedics pull up to the house, and she is standing by the front door. Standing by the front door with her coat.
She's been on the floor practically.
On the floor. She had to get her shoes. She put her shoes on and somehow managed to get to the front door. Now, I've told people this story, and, people have said to me, "Oh, well, no, obviously she found a way of getting to the front door." And I'm like, half her body was paralyzed.
No,
okay.
Yeah.
But this is the other point. She does not remember anything that happened from the time she hung up the phone to getting to the front door. She does not remember anything. And when she was standing by the front door and the paramedics came in, she collapsed in their arms. Mm-hmm. Okay? So, I'm sorry, folks. Adrenaline will not do that. Okay?
I'm here to tell you, adrenaline can do a lot of things.
Yes,
I've been there, I know, but it can't control your brain making your body work. Like I said earlier, I've seen people die from a stroke. They're not there.
Yeah. And afterwards, when she was in the hospital, she was totally out. She was out.
Yeah.
So, I think my father basically passed away a couple of years before that. And I don't know if my father is the guardian angel.
See, now this is the question about angels, okay? So you can loosely use the term guardian angel here. Mm-hmm. Your father is undoubtedly a guardian angel to your mother. He makes his presence known in her home from time to time. She doesn't want to leave that house because she feels his presence there.
Yeah.
And it's where she feels very loved.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a beautiful thing. But there are so many people who say angels are not human, and they never were. So this is where I get very confused.
Well,
that there are a lot of people scholars who say that angels are spirit in their nature, but in their function or their office, they are a messenger of the Lord.
Okay.
So are these souls that never assumed a human form, or have not yet assumed a human form?
Right.
And until they do so, and until that time when they materialize,
Right.
they are a vessel of the Lord. They're a vessel of the love of the Lord to be spread across the globe to people in need.
Right.
Or can someone be a spirit who, like your father's soul, who comes to visit your mom and you from
Right.
time to time?
Right.
And I'm pretty sure your sister as well. And watch over you and protect you. So these are very amorphous and loose loose things. Then you have some angels who are angels, and that is it, nothing more. They have names throughout the Bible. They have names throughout the Old Testament.
Right.
And it's very, very interesting. It's a whole entire thing to study. The interviews that we watched, the handful,
Yes.
that were just some astounding stories of angels interfering in someone's life for the better.
Right.
To help and to provide comfort, to provide salvation, to provide rescue in
Yes.
some cases,
Right.
or to deliver just a simple message of love, like as in your case, when you were worried about your trajectory.
Yeah.
These are messengers from a higher power. But then there's also, like people who say, well, no, my great-grandmother looks over me. I know she does, and she's my guardian angel. So it's all a whole field of study, all these different variations upon the whole angel theme.
Yeah.
I just find it all quite fascinating.
Well, like I said before, I believe that sometimes we are used as guardian angels, or an extension, and to help other people. And I think that happens. So there is one particular story that we watched.
You're my guardian angel.
You're my guardian angel.
Yeah.
My everything. Anyway, a woman who had an abusive husband. This was one of the stories we watched. This is actually
Ivy Olsen.
Yes, and Ivy Olsen had 2 kids. She had a husband that was very abusive, not in a physical way, according to the story that we heard. And basically what happened here was she ended up leaving her husband. He basically kind of gave her an ultimatum, and she chose leaving him. And so she was able to get a place, she was able to get a job, but she wasn't making nearly enough money to cover food and clothing. And so she was living at a place, and Thanksgiving rolled around, and she didn't have enough money for a Thanksgiving Day meal. Just a basic Thanksgiving Day, not even a chicken. I think she had a couple of hot dogs.
She had a couple days left until her next paycheck would come in, living from paycheck to paycheck. And on Thanksgiving, she found that she only had 3 hot dogs.
Yeah.
She had 2 little growing boys, and she decided, I'm going to make the absolute most beautiful afternoon. We're going to go out and play.
Yeah.
And I'm going to grill up those hot dogs. And of course, the children were coming home hungry.
Right. So she gets home, and she doesn't enter her apartment. She has to go upstairs. I think it's an outdoor apartment thing. But anyway, this older lady shows up, and she says, "Oh, I'm glad you're here. I made a dinner for you. I've been waiting for you." And she politely declined. But then the older lady, she basically insisted. And something in her heart told her that
She said, I made this meal just for you.
Just for you,
And the boys were like, turkey and stuffing and mashed potatoes. And they just couldn't believe it. You know, they were gobsmacked. And so she went in and to this little woman's tiny little apartment. She had an absolute Thanksgiving feast and, you know, gave her words of encouragement and comfort. And she knew the name of this woman's employer.
Yeah. She knew a lot of details about Ivy.
And Ivy had never seen this woman before
Right.
this day. And so she had a lovely meal, and she actually had some very nice company, which she was starved for because her life consisted of work and then obviously taking care of these little boys.
Right.
And worrying about finances.
Yeah.
And so she sent her home with leftovers. And the next day she was bringing the containers, the Tupperware, back down and to return to her lovely host. Knocked on the door, no answer. Knocked on the door again, no answer. Peeked through the window.
Nobody there.
Empty apartment.
Right.
Completely empty.
Yeah.
She went to speak with her landlord. And she said, what happened to this woman who lived here?
Right.
That apartment has been vacant for months and months, he said. And she was absolutely perplexed. And what she did was she went on to establish a charity called Angel Network Charities. And she fostered... 13 children?
10 plus, yeah.
Yeah. To help raise them and give them her love. And she received an award from President George H.W. Bush and also by Bill Clinton for the 1,000 Points of Light Award for her charity, which is to help women, single parents who were in her same situation in which she had been when that angel came. It's
pretty amazing, right?
It's a beautiful story.
It's a beautiful story, and it's true. It's all true. And I don't know, these things exist. These stories happen. We watched a particular story, and I unfortunately don't have the name, but this was a little boy, and he's about maybe 10, and he saw, basically it was a little motor scooter, right? And
he was a pastor.
Oh, that's...
and his father was a pastor. And the pastor tells the story of...
No, that's another one.
No, he ultimately became a pastor.
Okay.
And his father had been a pastor, but he tells this story of when he was 10 years old.
Okay.
And he decided to get real naughty, and he went out and he kind of nicked a neighbor's motor scooter.
Right. So he ended up taking that, and he was riding through the neighborhood, and he turned a corner, and there was a car that was speeding out of his driveway. And he was coming too close to the car, and he skid. He put on, tried to stop. And what ended up happening was he doesn't remember exactly what happened. He remembered going toward the car, and all of a sudden, the skid mark, I guess he was on the other side of the car.
On the other side of the car.
And all of a sudden, his father showed up looking for him, and the father said he got a feeling that something was wrong and came looking for him. And the father never came to this area, never walked into that area. Somehow he knew where he was. And the son explained the story. And when they looked at the skid mark from the bike, it shows it clearly skidding. And then for about 8 feet, there's no skid mark. And then it continues on the other side. So the way it was told was he didn't know what happened. He didn't know if he went over the car. He doesn't know if he went under the car. He has no idea. He has no recollection of contacting the car.
He was going to make impact with this oncoming, this
car
vehicle that was intercepting his trajectory.
Right.
And all of a sudden he's skidding on the other side of
the car,
of that vehicle.
Right.
And his father found him, and he somehow got there on foot. And he said, "Son, I was working on my sermon in my office, and I got this very, very heavy burden in my chest, and I knew that I needed to get to the floor and pray for you."
Yeah.
And the Pentecostal, they go to the side of their chair, and they kneel at home.
Right.
And he said, "I went to the floor and I knelt for you and I prayed for you and I said, Lord, Lord, please protect my child." He said, "I didn't know what the problem was, but I knew that there was a problem."
Yeah.
And
like something bad.
Like something bad.
Yeah.
And he said, and you can reach out to God and ask him for a helping hand.
Yeah.
And if you ask, he will.
Yeah.
He will help.
It's a pretty amazing story. They actually showed the photograph.
They show the photograph of
the skid. Yeah.
The skid marks.
Yeah.
This suddenly picking up where they left off on the other side of that intercepting vehicle.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
There's all this stuff that you can search out. One of the shows we looked at was, I think it was Angels Among Us. I think that was the name of the show. It's actually an old show. It's
very, very old, and it's hosted by this actress, this Irish actress, Roma Downey. I
think she was Touched by an Angel.
She played Touched by an Angel, which was a series.
Yeah.
And what have you. I'm sure you can find it on Hallmark.
Yeah.
And, fine, we can laugh all we want.
Right.
But she interviews people who have these corroborated, legitimate stories of things where the paramedics and doctors and medical professionals all chime in and they say, this is a miracle. Yeah. This literally is a miracle.
These are miracles that do happen, and people try to dismiss this stuff. I mean, it's really crazy. There's no explanation, and people try to make up stuff. They'll try to say, "Oh, yeah, it's
dismissive.
Just it's a coincidence or whatever." Yeah. And we've talked about coincidences before in the show. I don't believe in them. I think things happen for a reason, and I think there are things that are amazing that we can't even put our finger on it because there is no way to do that. It's basically,
And the story that I spoke about earlier in the show about myself and my late father, my wonderful late father. I don't tell that story because it's so deep for me, and it has very private. But when I started to do my investigation as to what the heck is an angel, I mean, I wanted to know, and I wanted to learn, and I want to, kind of look at it a little bit further. Not all my questions are answered, but at least I know a little bit more. But when I'm thinking about, for thousands of years, this word in all of its iterations over years and millennia and multiple languages, it all means the same thing. Messenger,
right?
A vessel of the message of God, whatever you define the Lord to be,
right?
It inspired me to share this story because it was a message, and it was a very distinct, concrete message that physically hit me at a moment when I really needed to act.
Yeah, exactly.
And tell someone who was on the brink of going to that next place, never to be seen again, and let that person know that they are loved.
Yeah.
So when you get these messages, don't ignore them. What do you have to lose?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Well, I believe in guardian angels. I believe in angels. I believe in God. And we felt you were compelled to do this show and talk about this, but I thought it was a really great topic, to talk about. We watched a lot more stuff than this. We'll bring up some of that stuff in a later show.
Oh, there's so much more to unpack. I mean,
there were stories. I mean, I think there's a site called Guideposts where you can actually go to, and it's people that have written stories, but they're real life accounts of things that happened to them, where they had their life changed by some sort of intervention, like a guardian angel or an angel. And it's something to check out. And like I said, I believe in it. I totally believe in it. I know things have happened to me that I can't explain. And I think if you're coming here and you're seeking answers to things, I think it's a good thing, And I know there are people out there that will say, and we've said this just before, that, well, that was because of this or that, or they try to make up reasons for that. I actually read something before we came on here on Facebook about somebody who questions this. They go to like a group on Facebook and they question some of the stuff that people are describing. And then they're surprised when people come back and they're angry. They'll say something like,
yes, you were saying earlier, someone asked a question.
Yeah. And the thing is that the reason why they come back angry is because it's basically you are doubting what they're saying that happened to them. And so it is almost like you're mocking them.
You're offending them.
Yes. Because when it's that deep, people tend to get angry.
Well, if somebody ever came to me and questioned what happened to me when I was 11, I'd knock them flat in the middle of next week.
Well, I don't know if I'd knock them flat, but I mean, I've had so many things happen to me, and there is no explanation. There is no explanation. It's something happened from somewhere else where certain things are just. I
feel it's okay. It is okay to. That's what we're doing here. We're questioning. We're wondering. But when someone's being dismissive or doubtful, that the incredulity is undoubtedly going to ensue.
Yeah.
Because they're so offended. This is something that was life-altering for me and deeply personal.
Yeah. And I think the other side to that is that when somebody comes out and they tell a story,
it takes a great deal of courage.
It takes a great deal of courage because they are basically saying, they're bearing their soul.
Yeah.
And they're saying what happened. So, if somebody's questioning that, it's very, very hurtful. And so I understand why people lash out. But I think there are people out there too that are seriously questioning it because they want to really know. They're trying to figure it out. And sometimes this stuff can't be figured out. It's faith. It's something called faith. It's faith. And yes. Yeah, they're looking for the reassurance. So I understand that too.
But faith is a belief that has to come without the reassurance. That's the beauty of faith.
Yeah, true.
That's the beauty of faith, that you are stepping out on that limb because you just know that the Lord will catch you. The Lord, whatever word you want to use to ascribe to that there is something greater than you. And there is. I believe that there is. But faith is believing in that which cannot be proven. That is the beauty of having a faith.
Yes. I agree.
I have a blog post I still am working on that has to do with this. And it has to do with that gentleman from the episode we talked about, the After Death movie.
Oh, well, okay. Well, we got to get that posted then.
I know, but I have to work it out.
Anyway, you can do your own research. There's basically so much stuff out there on YouTube And some of it will hit home. Some of it will really hit home for you. And some of it you might just kind of dismiss. And I understand that. But there is so many people out there that are, coming forth with this information. And, they're putting their names down, and they're saying stuff. And some of this stuff is, really, really amazing.
It's incredible.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
we'll do another show about this because
There's so much more.
There's so much good stuff. Yeah. But anyway, Marjorie's had some stuff. I've had a number of things that I haven't even mentioned. And we have so much more. So,
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Anyway, we have if you post something online and you want to try to win a Back to Paranormal mug, okay, it's available. It's just there's not a whole lot of people that are writing stuff about us. So, you're kind of a shoo-in for the award. The big award, the
It's
mug.
here waiting for you.
The Back to Paranormal mug. So contest ends August 31st, and all you have to do is write a little blog post or
how about, what?
with a
How about
link.
this? Marjorie's 50th birthday is on Saturday. If you can wish me a happy birthday,
That would be great.
I think I'm going to send you the mug.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what if everybody does it?
I'm a half century old. Don't you think they deserve a mug?
Yeah, but what if you get like 100 people doing that?
The one who sends the nicest one. I don't know. I'm changing the rules of the game.
You did change the rules. Okay, so we got it.
Review the show. Ask us a poignant question
Yeah.
that you would like us to discuss on this show. And wish me a dang on happy half-century birthday for the love
There
of
you
the
go.
Lord.
Yeah, that's coming up this Saturday,
Good.
the 24th.
It's a load of crud.
Okay. Anyway, that contest ends August 24th, 2024. So we got 2 contests going. So nicest happy birthday greeting to Marjorie by this Saturday. And then we still have the other big grand prize, the other mug, Back to Paranormal, which best review that we see. And you want to send the review, take a snapshot of it or whatever, screenshot, and send it to, what is it? Comments at Back to Paranormal, and just put in the byline contest. All right. Put up there in the, and then we'll take a look at it, and then we'll make it.
Subscribe, like, send us questions, send us comments, send us things that you would like us to look into and discuss on our show.
Share a story or two. If you have a story, share a story with us.
By all means, please do so.
Yeah, you can actually put that right on Facebook. So
I'm laying my soul bare over here.
Yeah, there you go. So anyway. Yeah, on the post for this podcast, just if you want to share a story, do it. Everybody wants to hear it, including us. Maybe we'll mention it on the show. How about that?
I would love to mention it on the show.
We would. So, anyway, that should be it for us. We'll have something fun next week.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. We got some exciting things coming up in the weeks ahead. So, anyway, it was fun.
It was fun. Good night, everybody.
We always enjoy this. Okay, take care, everybody. Have a good evening.
God bless.